A quiet Sunday morning in the mountains of Colorado. The kind of morning where the air feels untouched, where silence rests on the pine trees, and where life seems safe. Suzanne Morphew, a 49-year-old mother of two, woke up that day like she had countless times before. To the outside world, she was a picture of grace and strength, a woman adored by her family and admired by friends. That morning, Suzanne decided to do something she loved, her bike through the winding trails that curled along the mountainsides near her home in Maysville. For her, it wasn't just exercise. It was peace, a way to breathe away the weight of everyday life. But somewhere on that trail, everything changed. Her bicycle was later found lying awkwardly against the rocks, as if it had been tossed there. Her helmet, strangely, was discovered miles away, abandoned and out of place. And Suzanne was gone. What began as a calm, sunny Mother's Day quickly turned into a nightmare. A woman full of life simply vanished. A wife, a mother, a friend. The news spread like wildfire through the tight-knit Colorado community. People couldn't believe it. How could Suzanne, someone so strong, so full of kindness, just disappear without a trace? At first, it looked like an accident, a biking mishap, maybe a fall. But then came the details, the misplaced helmet, the missing body, the inconsistencies. What started as a search for a missing woman soon spiraled into something far darker, something that would shake her family and community to their very core. Behind Suzanne's smile, behind the image of a happy family, there were secrets. Secrets that, once uncovered, would reveal a story no one saw coming. To understand the weight of Suzanne Morphew's disappearance, you have to know the woman behind the headlines. She wasn't just another name in the news. She was someone whose life meant everything to the people around her. Suzanne was born and raised in Alexandria, Indiana, a small town where neighbors knew each other and families stayed connected through faith and tradition. From a young age, she was known for her warmth. People remembered her as the girl with a bright smile, the one who never failed to encourage others. She wasn't loud or boastful. She had a quiet strength, the kind that drew people in. She was also an athlete. Suzanne loved sports, the outdoors, and staying active. That spirit of determination followed her into adulthood, especially when she faced her biggest challenge, cancer. Years earlier, Suzanne had been diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. It was a devastating blow, but she fought it with everything she had, and she survived. That battle only deepened the admiration her friends and family felt for her. She wasn't just strong in spirit, she was strong in body and will. In 1994, Suzanne married Barry Morphew, her high school sweetheart. To their community, they were the golden couple. Barry was a celebrated baseball player, charismatic and confident. Together, they seemed unstoppable. They built a life around family, faith, and love. 2 daughters soon followed, Mallory and Macy, who became the center of Suzanne's world. Years later, the family moved to Colorado, drawn by the mountains and the promise of a fresh start. Their home in Maysville was beautiful, surrounded by forests, with views that stretched for miles. On social media, their lives looked picture perfect. Vacations, smiles, family portraits. But as so often happens, the glossy image hid the cracks beneath. Friends would later recall hints of strain in Suzanne's marriage, moments when she seemed distant, comments that hinted at unhappiness. Behind her smile, Suzanne carried secrets she rarely shared, and it was those secrets, silent, fragile, that would one day play a haunting role in her disappearance. By mid-morning on Mother's Day, when Suzanne didn't answer her phone, small concerns began to grow. Her daughters, Mallory and Macy, were away on a camping trip with friends. Barry, her husband, said he was in Denver for a landscaping job. Suzanne was supposed to be home, enjoying her day. Barry called a neighbor, asking her to check the house. When the neighbor arrived, everything felt unsettling. Suzanne's car sat in the garage. Her belongings were still inside, but Suzanne herself was nowhere to be found. Her phone went straight to voicemail. It was as if she had simply vanished into thin air. Later that day, searchers discovered her bike, but the position of the bicycle made little sense. It wasn't smashed into rocks. The tires weren't bent. It didn't look like a crash. It looked placed. Then came the discovery of her helmet oddly located miles away from the bike, as though it had been intentionally moved. Panic spread. This was no ordinary accident. By nightfall, the entire community was mobilized. Friends, neighbors, and volunteers scoured the mountain trails with flashlights, and 8 drones buzzed overhead. Search dogs picked up faint scents, but nothing led to Suzanne. Helicopters swept across the valley. The peaceful town of Maysville transformed into the center of a frantic manhunt. As each hour passed, dread deepened. For her family, the nightmare had only just begun. When a woman disappears, investigators often start closest to home, and almost immediately, attention turned to Barry Morphew. At first, Barry seemed like a grieving husband. He offered a $100,000 reward for Suzanne's safe return. He pleaded publicly for her to come home. His daughters, Mallory and Macy, stood beside him, their voices trembling as they begged for their mother's return. But behind the scenes, inconsistencies surfaced. Investigators began piecing together Barry's movements on the day Suzanne vanished. He said he left for Denver early in the morning, but cell phone data told a different story. He had made multiple odd stops along the way, throwing away trash in different dumpsters. Surveillance footage captured him acting strangely, fidgeting, and disposing of bags. His cell phone records also revealed something troubling. At certain times, his phone appeared to be in airplane mode, only to later ping off towers in suspicious locations. Then came Suzanne's text messages. In the weeks leading up to her disappearance, she had confided in close friends. Her marriage was unraveling. She admitted she felt controlled and suffocated, and she hinted at leaving Barry. In one message, she wrote that she was scared of what might happen if she finally walked away. The image of a happy marriage was shattered. What once looked like a loving family suddenly appeared more complicated, more fragile, and possibly dangerous. The investigation widened. Hundreds of tips poured in. The FBI, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, and local police all joined forces. For Suzanne's family and community, hope clung tightly to every new lead. Candlelight vigils were held. Posters with Suzanne's smiling face were plastered across town. Volunteers wore purple, Suzanne's favorite color, as a sign of solidarity. But investigators dug deeper. They discovered something that complicated the narrative. Suzanne had been in contact with a man from her past, a former high school flame. Their messages revealed a closeness, one that hinted at more than friendship. Suzanne had spoken about starting over, about a future that no longer included Barry. To prosecutors, it painted a motive. To Suzanne's loved ones, it showed her desperation for happiness, her quiet plea for freedom. Still, no trace of Suzanne herself could be found. Without a body, without clear evidence, the investigation stretched thin. But police were quietly building a case, one that would eventually place Barry at the center. 1 year after Suzanne's disappearance, in May 2021, a stunning announcement shook the community. Barry Morphew had been arrested and charged with her murder. The arrest affidavit painted a chilling picture. Investigators claimed Barry killed Suzanne after learning about her affair and her plans to leave him. They pointed to the bizarre trash runs, the phone records, the erratic behavior, and even data from his truck's computer system that allegedly showed suspicious movements on the morning Suzanne vanished. Barry wasn't the heartbroken husband he portrayed in public. He was the jealous, angry spouse who couldn't stand to lose his wife. In court, Barry sat stone-faced, declaring his innocence. His daughters sat behind him, loyal, unwavering. They believed their father was wrongly accused. For them, the nightmare of losing their mother was now compounded by the fear of losing their father. The trial promised to reveal everything, but before it could begin, the case took another shocking turn. In April 2022, prosecutors abruptly dropped the charges against Barry Morphew. The courtroom gasped. The reason? The case was crumbling. Critical evidence was still missing. Suzanne's body had not been recovered. Without it, prosecutors feared they could not prove how she died, or even confirm beyond doubt that she had been murdered. Barry walked free. His attorneys immediately claimed victory, saying the state had rushed to judgment. Barry himself said he had been unfairly targeted, that he was grieving and vilified at the same time, but the suspicion didn't disappear. For many, the dropped charges didn't prove Barry's innocence. They only highlighted the difficulties of a case built on circumstantial evidence. The community was divided. Some saw Barry as a wronged man, falsely accused. Others saw him as a dangerous husband who had escaped justice. And in the middle of it all were Suzanne's daughters, torn between loyalty to their father and the aching absence of their mother. The discovery expanded for 3 long years. Suzanne's family lived in uncertainty. Each day began with questions and ended with silence. Was she alive somewhere, hidden away, waiting to be found? Or had her story already ended in tragedy, her fate sealed in the shadows of the Colorado mountains? In September 2023, the answer finally came. A hiker stumbled upon human remains in a remote and desolate area of Saguache County, roughly 50 miles south of where Suzanne vanished on that Mother's Day morning. The location was rugged, isolated, and far from any easy path, a place few people would ever go by chance. Forensic testing delivered the devastating truth. It was Suzanne. The confirmation that her loved ones dreaded yet longed for had arrived. The limbo of not knowing had ended, but what replaced it was even heavier, a permanent goodbye. Yet, even this discovery raised more questions than it answered. How had Suzanne died? Why had her body been left so far away from her home? Who had carried her into that wilderness and hidden her there? The coroner's office has not released her cause of death, leaving investigators and family members in the same torment of uncertainty they had lived with for years. Her daughters, Mallory and Macy, were forced to relive the grief all over again, this time with the cold finality of death. The public, too, cried out for justice. Communities that had followed every update in Suzanne's case demanded answers, demanded accountability. Yet, to this day, no new charges have been filed. Even in death, Suzanne's story remains unresolved. A woman loved by so many is gone. But the truth about what really happened to her still lingers just out of reach, like a secret, buried in the mountains themselves. What makes Suzanne's story so heartbreaking isn't just the mystery, it's the life she lived before it. Suzanne was more than a missing person headline. She was a devoted mother who poured her love into Mallory and Macy. She was a sister, a friend, a woman of faith who leaned on prayer and resilience during her battle with cancer. Those who knew her described her as compassionate, patient, and deeply generous with her time and energy. Her disappearance, and later discovery, left a wound not only in her family, but in the community at large. People who never met Suzanne felt connected to her story. They saw themselves in her, an ordinary woman, living an ordinary life, suddenly thrust into extraordinary tragedy. Neighbors recalled how she would stop to check in, how she never missed a chance to ask how others were doing. Former classmates spoke of her warmth, her laughter that seemed to fill a room. Friends described a woman who never complained, even when her health faltered, but instead looked for ways to lift others up. She was the type of person who made you feel seen, who made you feel like you mattered. Her daughters now carry her legacy, though burdened with unimaginable grief. They lost their mother, and in many ways, they lost the life they once knew. They face each day with unanswered questions. caught between memory and mystery. The milestones of their lives, graduations, weddings, future families will always carry a shadow, a reminder of what was stolen. Suzanne's story is heartbreaking not only because of how it ended, but because of how much life she still had to give. And for those left behind, the absence is louder than any words. Today, Suzanne Morphew's case remains one of Colorado's most haunting mysteries. Her body has been found, but justice has not. Barry maintains his innocence. Prosecutors insist the case is ongoing. The public is left in limbo, wondering if the truth will ever fully come to light. The story of Suzanne Morphew is about more than crime. It's about love and betrayal, strength and vulnerability, hope and despair. It's about the fragility of life and how quickly the ordinary can collapse into the unthinkable. Suzanne's name will not be forgotten. Her story is a reminder that behind every headline is a person who laughed, who dreamed, who loved, and though the world may never know the full truth of what happened that day in May 2020, Suzanne's memory will continue to live on, carried by those who refuse to let her story fade. And perhaps one day, the full truth will finally emerge.